The Arrogant Empire. The Zarkonian Empire stretched across 3 spiral arms of the Milky Way, their technological prowess unmatched by any known civilization. For millennia, they had expanded unchallenged, assimilating or conquering thousands of worlds. Their ships, massive constructs of living metal and energy fields, were considered invincible. Their weapons could shatter planets, and their shields could withstand the fury of a dying star. High Admiral Vexlor stood on the command deck of the Eternal Dominion, the flagship of the Zarkonian fleet. His elongated, silver-skinned form towered over the various crew members scurrying about their duties. 4 arms worked in perfect synchronization as he manipulated the holographic displays before him, each showing the status of a different part of the vast empire. "Your Eminence," a subordinate approached, bowing low. "We've detected a new civilization on the outer rim of the Orion Arm. They call themselves humans." Vexlor's multifaceted eyes narrowed. "Show me." The holographic display shifted, zooming in on an unremarkable yellow star. 8 planets orbited it, but only the 3rd held any interest. Blue oceans, green and brown landmasses, swirling white clouds. It was depressingly ordinary. "They've achieved spaceflight," the subordinate continued, "but have only colonized their own solar system. Their technology is primitive by our standards." Vexlor scoffed, a sound like metal scraping against stone. "Hardly worth our attention. Send a standard invasion fleet. They'll surrender within days, like all the rest." As the orders were relayed, Vexlor turned his attention back to more pressing matters. The humans would be just another footnote in the glorious history of the Zarkonian Empire. Little did he know that this decision would change the fate of the galaxy forever. On Earth, Dr. Samantha Chen stood before the United Nations Security Council, her heart racing. As the head of the Global Defense Initiative, she had been tasked with preparing humanity for potential extraterrestrial threats. For years, her warnings had fallen on deaf ears. But now, everything had changed. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, her voice steady despite her nerves. 12 hours ago, our deep space monitoring stations detected a massive energy surge at the edge of our solar system. We now have visual confirmation." She pressed a button, and a holographic image appeared above the center of the room. Gasps and murmurs filled the chamber as the delegates took in the sight. A fleet of ships, each larger than anything humanity had ever constructed, was moving towards Earth. Their designs were alien, all sleek curves and pulsing energy fields. "We estimate their arrival in 72 hours, Samantha continued. "Based on their trajectory and speed, we can only assume their intentions are hostile." The room erupted into chaos. Accusations flew, panic spread, and for a moment, it seemed like humanity's leadership would crumble in the face of this unprecedented threat. But then, a voice cut through the din. "Enough." The word, spoken with quiet authority, came from General Marcos Santos of Brazil. All eyes turned to him as he stood. "Dr. Chen, you've been preparing for this. What's your plan?" Samantha took a deep breath. This was the moment she had both dreaded and prepared for her entire career. "Operation Slingshot," she said. "It's unconventional, it's risky, but it's our best shot at survival." As she outlined the plan, a mix of skepticism and hope filled the room. It was audacious, borderline insane, but as the details emerged, a new sentiment began to take hold. Determination. "We'll need every nation to contribute," Samantha concluded. "Every scientist, every engineer, every soldier. The next 72 hours will determine the fate of our species." General Santos stood again. "I don't know about the rest of you, but I'm not ready to see humanity become a footnote in some alien history book. I say we show these Zarkonians what humans are made of." One by one, the other delegates stood. There were no more accusations, no more panic. In the face of annihilation, humanity had found its unity. As the council adjourned and the world's leaders rushed to mobilize their nations, Samantha allowed herself a small smile. The odds were astronomical. the enemy vastly superior in technology and numbers. But there was one thing the Zarkonians hadn't accounted for: human ingenuity and determination. The next 72 hours would see the greatest cooperation in human history. Militaries coordinated on a global scale, scientists and engineers worked around the clock, and ordinary citizens volunteered in droves. Satellites were repurposed, weapons systems were jury-rigged, and a plan so crazy it just might work began to take shape. As the Zarkonian fleet entered the solar system, they expected to find a primitive civilization cowering in fear. Instead, they were about to encounter a united human race, ready to fight for its very existence. The stage was set for a battle that would shake the foundations of the galaxy. First contact gone wrong. The Zarkonian invasion fleet, led by Commander Zixtal, entered the Sol system with the casual arrogance of a force that had never known defeat. Their sensors swept the planets, focusing on the blue-green world that was their target. Primitive defenses detected, reported a sensor officer. Rudimentary satellites and a small number of armed orbital stations. Zixtal's mandibles clicked in amusement. Hardly worth calling defenses. Prepare the standard intimidation broadcast. Let's see how quickly these humans surrender. As the fleet approached Mars, a message was beamed towards Earth in all known galactic languages. Inhabitants of Earth, we are the Zarkonian Empire, rulers of 1,000 worlds. Your planet is now under our protection and control. Resistance is futile and will result in unnecessary destruction. Surrender now, and you will be granted the honor of serving the Empire. On Earth, in the newly established Global Defense Command Center buried deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, Dr. Samantha Chen and General Santos listened to the translation with grim determination. Well, Santos said dryly, at least they're giving us a chance to surrender. Samantha nodded. And buy us more time. Send the response we prepared. Across the globe, every radio telescope, satellite dish, and communication array focused on the approaching fleet. Earth's response was simple. We acknowledge your message. Our leaders are convening to discuss your offer. We request 24 hours to formulate our response. In the Zarkonian flagship, Commander Zixtal received the message with surprise. They're not immediately surrendering. He turned to his cultural advisor. Is this normal for a species at their level of development? The advisor, a multi-limbed being named Quix, hesitated. It's unusual, Commander. Most species faced with our technological superiority capitulate immediately. Perhaps they don't fully understand their situation. Zixtal considered this. Very well. Grant them their 24 hours. It will make no difference in the end. As the Zarkonian fleet took up positions around Mars, humanity's plan swung into action. In low Earth orbit, astronauts worked feverishly to modify the International Space Station. What was once a scientific outpost was being transformed into the nerve center of Earth's defense. On the ground, every major observatory and radar installation was repurposed, their sensitive instruments now focused on gathering every scrap of data about the alien fleet. In laboratories and workshops around the world, scientists and engineers worked nonstop, analyzing the alien transmissions, trying to glean any information about their technology. And in secret military bases, the most audacious part of Operation Slingshot was taking shape. As the 24-hour deadline approached, Samantha addressed the United Nations one final time. In a few minutes, we will deliver our response to the Zarkonian ultimatum, she said, her voice broadcast to billions around the world. Make no mistake, this will mean war. A war against an enemy with technology far beyond our own. The odds are against us. She paused, looking at each delegate in turn. But we have something they don't expect. We have the courage of a species fighting for its very existence. We have the ingenuity born from millennia of overcoming challenges. And most importantly, we have each other. Today we are not Americans, Russians, Chinese, or Europeans. We are humans, united against a common threat. General Santos stepped forward. To all military personnel, you know your orders. To all civilians, stay strong, support each other, and remember, this is humanity's finest hour. We may be outgunned, but we will never be outmatched in spirit. As cheers erupted in the chamber and around the world, Samantha nodded to a communications officer. It was time. Earth's response streaked across the void, reaching the Zarkonian fleet in seconds. To the Zarkonian Empire, we, the united people of Earth, reject your offer of surrender. We choose freedom. We choose to fight. Come and take our world if you can. On the Zarkonian flagship, Commander Zixtal read the message with a mixture of shock and rage. Impossible, he roared. They dare to defy us. Quix, the cultural advisor, spoke hesitantly. Commander, I believe we may have miscalculated. This species, they're not reacting as expected. Zixtal's anger subsided, replaced by a cold determination. It matters not. Their defiance will be short-lived. Prepare all ships for combat. We'll reduce their cities to ash and hunt down every last one of these humans. As the Zarkonian fleet began to move, splitting into attack formations, they failed to notice the flurry of activity happening on the far side of Earth. Hundreds of objects, too small to trigger their long-range sensors, were being launched into carefully calculated orbits. The first battle for Earth was about to begin, and the Zarkonians were about to learn that humanity was far from defenseless. Humanity's unexpected defense. As the Zarkonian fleet approached Earth, their sensors painted a picture of a primitive world ripe for conquest. Commander Zixtal stood confidently on his bridge, mandibles clicking in anticipation of an easy victory. Begin the attack sequence, he ordered. Target their largest population centers and military installations. Let's show these humans the price of defiance. The massive Zarkonian ships moved into position, their weapon systems powering up. Energy beams capable of vaporizing entire cities were aimed at Earth's surface. But just as Zixtal was about to give the order to fire, alarms blared across the fleet. Commander, a sensor officer called out in panic. Multiple small objects approaching at high velocity. Zixtal's compound eyes widened in surprise. What? Show me. The main view screen lit up, displaying hundreds of small, fast-moving projectiles hurtling towards the Zarkonian ships. They were too small to be missiles, too numerous to be some kind of primitive spacecraft. Evasive maneuvers, Zixtal ordered, but it was too late. The objects, in reality, simple tungsten rods guided by basic AI, slammed into the Zarkonian ships at incredible speeds. While they couldn't penetrate the advanced shields, the kinetic energy of the impacts was enormous. Zarkonian ships rocked violently, their crews thrown about like rag dolls. On Earth, in the Global Defense Command Center, Samantha and General Santos watched the unfolding battle with bated breath. Project Thor is a success, an officer reported. Multiple hits on enemy vessels. Their formation is breaking up. Samantha allowed herself a small smile. Project Thor, named after the Norse god of thunder, was the first phase of Operation Slingshot. Using modified satellite launch vehicles, they had positioned thousands of kinetic energy weapons in orbit, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. They're recovering, Santos noted, pointing at the tactical display. Time for Phase 2. Across Earth's orbit, seemingly innocuous communications satellites suddenly came to life. Powerful electromagnetic pulses, far stronger than anything the Zarkonians had anticipated from such a primitive species, lashed out at the alien ships. In the Zarkonian fleet, chaos reigned. Shield generators overloaded, weapon systems went offline, and communication arrays burned out. Impossible. Zixtal raged as his flagship's systems flickered and died. How can they have such weapons? Quix, the cultural advisor, spoke up, his voice filled with a new respect for the humans. Commander, I believe we have gravely underestimated this species. Their technological level may be lower than ours, but their tactical thinking is unprecedented. On Earth, the mood in the command center was cautiously optimistic. The first two phases of Operation Slingshot had succeeded beyond their wildest hopes. But they knew the battle was far from over. "The Zarkonians are regrouping," Santos observed. "They'll adapt to our tactics soon. We need to press our advantage." Samantha nodded grimly. "Agreed. Initiate Phase 3. Across the globe, in secret underground hangars and hidden mountain bases, engines roared to life. What the Zarkonians had dismissed as primitive chemical rockets were in fact the result of a decade of secret development. Hybrid spacecraft combining the best of human innovation with reverse-engineered technology from crashed alien vessels. Led by Wing Commander Aisha Patel, Earth's first space fighter squadron rose to meet the invaders. Their ships were smaller and less advanced than the Zarkonian vessels, but they were piloted by the best Earth had to offer. A multinational team of Top Gun pilots, astronauts, and drone operators. "Wolfpack, this is Alpha Leader," Aisha's voice crackled over the comms. "Remember your training. Hit hard, hit fast, and don't let them pin you down." For Earth, the human fighters swarmed the disoriented Zarkonian fleet. Using the debris field created by the kinetic strikes as cover, they launched precision attacks on key systems, further crippling the alien ships. In the command center, Samantha and Santos watched the battle unfold with a mixture of pride and anxiety. The humans were holding their own, but the Zarkonians still outnumbered and outgunned them. "We've bloodied their nose," Santos said, "but we can't keep this up forever. We need a knockout blow." Samantha nodded, her eyes fixed on the tactical display. "Agreed. It's time for the final phase. Send the signal." High above the Earth, on the modified International Space Station, a team of scientists and engineers worked feverishly. At the heart of the station, a device that had been theorized for decades but never built pulsed with energy. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, the lead scientist, received the signal from Earth. With trembling hands, she initiated the final sequence. "Gravitational lens activated," she reported. "Focusing now." The device, a breakthrough in gravitational wave manipulation, began to bend space-time itself. It was Earth's ultimate weapon and its greatest gamble. As the human fighters disengage, pulling back to defensive positions around Earth, the Zarkonian fleet found itself caught in an invisible net. Ships that tried to maneuver found their movements sluggish and unpredictable. Weapons fire bent and twisted, missing targets by wide margins. In the confusion, a message was broadcast to the Zarkonian fleet. "This is your final warning. Withdraw now or be destroyed. You have 5 minutes to comply." On the bridge of his flagship, Commander Zixtal stared at the message in disbelief. For the first time in his long career, he felt fear. These humans, these supposedly primitive beings, had not only stood up to the might of the Zarkonian Empire, they had beaten it. "Your orders, Commander," his second-in-command asked, voice quavering. Zixtal looked at the devastation around him, at the broken and battered fleet that had arrived with such confidence. The tide turns. Commander Zixtal's mandibles clicked nervously as he surveyed the chaos surrounding his once mighty fleet. The Zarkonian ships, pride of an empire that spanned galaxies, now hung in space like wounded beasts. Earth's gravitational lens technology had rendered their superior weapons and maneuverability all but useless. "Your orders, Commander," his second-in-command repeated, anxiety evident in his multi-tone voice. Zixtal's compound eyes narrowed as he weighed his options. The Empire had never retreated, never surrendered, but they had also never faced an opponent like humanity. "Send the signal," he finally said, his voice heavy with defeat. "We're withdrawing." As the Zarkonian fleet limped away from Earth, a cheer erupted in the Global Defense Command Center. Samantha and General Santos embraced, tears of joy and relief streaming down their faces. "We did it," Samantha whispered, hardly believing the words as she said them. "We actually did it." But their celebration was short-lived. An urgent message came through from Dr. Yuki Tanaka on the space station. "Earth Command, we have a problem." Yuki's voice crackled over the comm. The gravitational lens device. It's destabilizing. We can't shut it down. Samantha's blood ran cold. The device that had saved Earth was now threatening to tear it apart. What are our options, Dr. Tanaka? We need to detach the module and move it away from Earth, Yuki replied. But our thrusters are damaged. We need the Zarkonians' help. A heavy silence fell over the command center. Ask for help from the very enemy they had just defeated. It seemed unthinkable, but the alternative was unimaginable destruction. General Santos stepped forward. I'll make the call. As Santos reached out to the retreating Zarkonian fleet, Samantha turned her attention to the space station. Commander Patel, are you receiving this? Loud and clear, Doc. Ash's voice came through. Wolfpack is ready to assist in any way we can. Good, Samantha said, because we're about to attempt something never done before in human history. On the Zarkonian flagship, Commander Zixtal received the human transmission with disbelief. They want our help, after what they've done to us. Quix, the cultural advisor, spoke up. Commander, this could be an opportunity. If we assist them, it could change the nature of our relationship with this species. Zixtal considered this. The Empire had always conquered or destroyed. The idea of cooperation was alien, but then again, everything about this encounter had defied expectations. Very well, he said finally. Inform the humans we will render assistance. Prepare tractor beams and bring us about. What followed was a delicate dance of human and Zarkonian technology. The wolf pack fighters, piloted with incredible skill by Aisha and her team, attached themselves to the unstable module. Zarkonian ships, their tractor beams at full power, carefully helped guide the module away from Earth. Dr. Tanaka, working feverishly with both human and Zarkonian scientists over hastily established communication channels, managed to stabilize the device long enough for it to be moved to a safe distance. As the module detonated in a spectacular display of light and energy, far enough from Earth to cause no harm, humans and Zarkonians alike watched in awe. In the aftermath, as the Zarkonian fleet hovered uncertainly near Earth's moon, Commander Zixtal made an unprecedented decision. He requested a face-to-face meeting with Earth's leaders. The meeting took place on the neutral ground of the International Space Station. Zixtal, flanked by Quix and a small security detail, faced Samantha, General Santos, and Dr. Tanaka. You have impressed us, humans, Zixtal began, his translator conveying his words with a metallic twang. In all our centuries of expansion, we have never encountered a species quite like yours. Samantha stepped forward. We didn't want this conflict, Commander. We only wished to defend our home. Zixtal's mandibles clicked in what the humans would later learn was a sign of respect. Your home and your freedom are yours to keep. The Zarkonian Empire will trouble Earth no more. But Quix, ever the diplomat, saw an opportunity. Perhaps, he suggested, this could be the beginning of something new. Not conquest, not subjugation, but cooperation. The human leaders exchanged glances. The idea of alliance with a species that had, just hours ago, been bent on their destruction was difficult to grasp. But if recent events had taught them anything, it was that the impossible could become possible. We would be open to discussions, General Santos said carefully. As the meeting concluded and preparations for more formal diplomatic talks began, Samantha found herself looking out one of the station's windows at the blue marble of Earth. Everything's going to change now, isn't it? Dr. Tanaka asked, joining her at the window. Samantha nodded. The universe just got a whole lot bigger and a whole lot more complicated. But if we can turn an invasion into an alliance in the span of a day, I think humanity is ready for whatever comes next. As the Zarkonian ships began to depart, not in retreat but with promises of return and cooperation, the people of Earth looked to the stars with new eyes. They had faced their greatest challenge and emerged not just victorious, but on the brink of a new era of galactic diplomacy. The Zarkonian Empire had come to conquer. They left as the herald of humanity's entry onto the galactic stage. The future, vast and unknown, beckoned. A new galactic order. 5 years after the failed Zarkonian invasion, Earth had undergone a transformation that would have been unimaginable half a decade earlier. The planet was now a hub of interstellar diplomacy, with representatives from dozens of alien species walking the streets of a specially constructed city named Unity. Dr. Samantha Chen, now serving as Earth's ambassador to the newly formed Galactic Council, stood at the podium in the Grand Assembly Hall. Before her sat delegates from across the Milky Way, including the contingent of Zarkonians, led by none other than former commander, now diplomatic envoy Zixtal. Distinguished delegates, Samantha began, her voice carrying easily through the advanced acoustics of the hall. 5 years ago, our world stood on the brink of a devastating war. Today, we gather as partners in peace, as architects of a new galactic order. She gestured to the holographic display behind her, showing the progress made in various cooperative projects between Earth and its new alien allies. The Zarkonian Human Joint Research Initiative has made unprecedented breakthroughs in faster-than-light travel. The Arcturian Earth Educational Exchange Program has enriched both our cultures, and the Multi-Species Task Force to combat the Void Plague has saved countless lives across 17 star systems. Murmurs of approval rippled through the assembly. Even the most skeptical delegates had to admit that the alliance, born from the ashes of conflict, had yielded remarkable results. But Samantha wasn't finished. Yet we face new challenges. The discovery of the ancient precursor artifacts in the Andromeda galaxy has raised questions we are ill-equipped to answer alone. The threat of the extragalactic swarm looms on the horizon, and there are still those who would see our alliance torn apart for their own gain. She paused, letting her words sink in. That is why today, I propose the formation of a permanent galactic defense force, not to conquer, not to subjugate, but to protect. A force made up of the best each of our worlds has to offer, standing ready to face whatever the universe may throw at us. The hall erupted in a mixture of excited chatter and concerned murmurs. It was an audacious proposal, one that would have been unthinkable just a few years ago. Zixtal stood, his silver skin gleaming under the lights of the assembly hall. The Zarkonian Empire supports this proposal, he said, his translator conveying the gravity in his tone. We have learned, thanks to humanity, that true strength lies not in domination, but in cooperation. One by one, other delegates rose to voice their support. The Arcturians, with their unparalleled scientific knowledge, the Volcran, masters of bioengineering, even the enigmatic quantum collective, rarely seen at such gatherings, signaled their approval. As the vote was tallied and the proposal passed with an overwhelming majority, Samantha felt a weight lift from her shoulders. This was what she had worked for, dreamed of, ever since that fateful day when the Zarkonian fleet first appeared in Earth's skies. After the assembly, Samantha found herself in one of Unity's many gardens, a place where Earth flora mingled with exotic alien plants in a vibrant display of interstellar cooperation. She was soon joined by an unlikely pair, Zixtal and General Santos, now the head of Earth's division of the Galactic Defense Force. Quite a day, Ambassador, Santos said, a twinkle in his eye. I remember when you were just a scientist warning us about potential alien threats. Now look at you, shaping galactic policy. Samantha smiled. We've all come a long way, General. You included. I never thought I'd see you working so closely with our former adversaries. Zixtal's mandibles clicked in what the humans now recognized as amusement. Adversaries, perhaps for a moment in time. Now I would call us the closest of allies. It is not a role I ever expected to play, but one I have come to cherish. Their conversation was interrupted by Dr. Yuki Tanaka, hurrying towards them with excitement visible on her face. Ambassador, General, Envoy Zixtal. We've done it. The Joint Research Team has successfully activated the precursor artifact. The implications were enormous. The precursors, an ancient race that had vanished millions of years ago, had left behind technology that defied understanding. If they had managed to activate one of their artifacts. "Show us," Samantha said, her scientific curiosity overtaking diplomatic decorum for a moment. As they hurried to the research facility, Samantha couldn't help but marvel at how far they'd come. Humans working alongside Zarkonians and a dozen other species, unraveling the mysteries of the universe together. The artifact, a swirling mass of energy and impossible geometries, pulsed with newfound life as they entered the lab. And as it did, it projected a message, a map of sorts, pointing to something far beyond the edges of the known galaxy. "It appears," Yuki said, her voice filled with awe, "that the precursors left us an invitation to follow in their footsteps, to explore realms we never dreamed existed." Samantha looked around the room, seeing the same mix of excitement and apprehension on every face, human and alien alike. This was it, the next great adventure. "Well," she said, a smile spreading across her face, "I guess we better start preparing for a long journey." As the news spread through Unity and across the galaxy, a new age of exploration and discovery dawned. Humanity, once confined to a single world, now stood ready to journey beyond the stars, hand in hand with beings they once thought of as alien. The universe, vast and mysterious, awaited. And this time, they would face it together.